just goes, welcome to Boulder. And you gotta just go, welcome to reality. Here we are. Flexible, fickle, and ruthless. You just gotta love it. And if you clamp down, you're fucked. And I hope that underneath it all, you can find the part that is like curious and joyful and kind of giddy over, we never know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen next. And then we drop the story. We have a plan. There's such an impulse to keep going and grabbing it and working it. There's a way that we stay fighting for our lives at the surface, because our ego is saying, don't drop down because you'll lose me. And there's this way that we just keep spinning around at the surface, and it's so unsatisfying. And so we have this longing for God, this longing to connect with the mystery, the longing to connect with something bigger than us. But we just stay in that place of that loop. So this is such a great opportunity that we get to keep going. So we don't need to keep bringing it back up until we reevaluate. And we've got an idea of when we're going to reevaluate. So I want to just demonstrate something that I was feeling the other day as I was feeling into my attachments and also anything that I might feel resistant to. And I was realizing that when we're attached to something and we pull, right, we pull towards us, what happens when we have to let go, or we let go in a moment when we're really attached, whether that's a thought, an object, a belief system, an animal, a person, whatever. When we pull towards us and we let go, even in a moment, what happens?
Hits you.
No, it goes away from us. It goes away, which then is what starts the cycle, right? We're pulling towards us, it goes away. And then we have the impulse to go and grab it again. What if we push away, right? And we let go in a moment or death or whatever. If we're pushing something away, what happens? It comes towards us, right? The thing we resist persists, right? Right? As soon as we let go, even for a moment, if we're not paying attention to the cycle, that thing is going to come towards us more when we're resisting. We're pushing it away. We're holding it tight. I'm having to really look at this in my own life. The micro places, the macro place of where I'm attached. And finding that this is why that medicine journey, doing the ketamine, was so helpful in this last bit, because what it showed me is that how you live your life is how you will die. In that moment when we're having to give things up, that attachment, if we're really attached or really resistant, will get much stronger at the time of death. What I got in that is the willingness to feel the attachment without the continual sense of the grasping at it, right? So we're not pulling it towards us. It's a real recognition that we will lose it. And that's so painfully sad. But this is why we sit. We can tolerate things that we think are unacceptable, that we can't feel. There's something that we're longing for. Love, connection, peace, freedom, ease. Usually we have to go through layer after layer after layer, and often it can be a feeling that may not be a longing, but I think if we were to stick with even that feeling of like sad, if we were really stay with it for any length of time, not that we need to find a longing, but oftentimes it's because there's some deep human thing that we have that in that moment we're just wanting so much to be met with. So this longing to have a partner, what does she actually want? She wants to feel loved, she wants to have help, she wants to have community, She wants to feel that there's a specialness that's there with somebody. That sense of the longing for something that's external, that if only I get that, that sense of taking away from what's actually here right now. She may not ever have a partner. What if we start there? Because then we have the hope and fear thing is just there. What if we just start there? May not ever have a partner. And there's all the literal things one can do. Have 3 people move in, to have community, have dinners every single night, have help around the house. Maybe you start on dating sites more actively. There's things that we do externally. But there's a way in which I want to bring it back to dying again. That in your moment, when you really get that you're dying, if you're there saying, if only, that's how you'll die. And when we talk about the bardo, I really don't want that for you. Because that is a very confusing place to end the bardo with. I'll come back to that. The second thing was her desire to help the poor, which is a very noble want and longing. And she was expressing that there's a sort of a desperation about that, and yet she's not doing it. And what I was saying to that is, follow your body. Trust what your body is doing, rather than what you think you're supposed to be doing. That sense of following what the body actually does, there's a wisdom in our bodies. This idea that something is so important and yet we're not doing it. And that's usually coming from the mind. And this relates to what's happening here in the sense that if there's something to do, she was talking about the poverty in Madagascar, say, and here there are people who are starving to get to death, and yet she has all this food. And one I was saying, live your karma. That's your karma. But also this sense that if there's something to do, go to Madagascar. But don't sit here and want to go to Madagascar and struggle over it. Mm-hmm. Either leave or be here and drop the worry. Either do something or don't. But if you're not, then that sense of really actually arriving here and leaving the gravitational pull. Does that make sense? Think of how often we are not doing something and bemoaning it. Do it or don't. And that's the thing that I'm getting more and more as I close in on this, is that as I wrap this up, is there's a sense of really actually just completely be here and don't be thinking about the things that you're not doing, totally missing your life. Mm-hmm. Fear arises and passes just like everything else. If we're staying in fear, that needs thinking. To stay in anger, to stay in worry, needs thinking. It needs that process. If you watch it in its natural state, it's rising and passing away, rising and passing away, all the time. Which then brings me back to the question that I had when we were breaking for dinner, which is, I really would like to know what you're waiting for. There's some idea that there's still something, if I can just get that right, if I can ... And I'd like to find out, because I think if you can share, it's very fruitful for everybody else. Little things.
I feel like for me it's a big thing. I feel like I am waiting to figure out what my calling is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a little bit.
Well, no, I mean, let's just sit with that for a minute. So waiting to find out what your calling is. Does anybody else have that?
For decades.
Mm-hmm. For decades.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's sit with that. So I'm going to assume that the calling would be something that feels totally satisfying and engaging. And the meaning of why you're here. How would you describe calling?
A sense that the life I'm living is the one that life wants of me.
Oh, honey, what you're doing is exactly what life wants of you.
And I want to enjoy it. And I want
Okay, that I get.
the stuff you said.
That I get, because what you're doing is exactly perfect. It may not be comfortable, but it is exactly your karma path, and at any point you can shift and change that. But to think that there's something that's not right in the way you're living, that somehow you're going to do something that life's going to go, that was the right thing to do. Life doesn't give a shit. Life is being life. Life doesn't have an idea. That's all happening here. More what I would say is exactly that. How do you enjoy the life you have? And in that, in the practices we're doing, we're becoming more and more available to life's flow, so that when the door opens, we step through it. Most of the time we're mind fucking over here and the door is like going by, opens, and we're like, what just happened? Missed that one. But when we're really available, there's not even a thought, we just step through. And that's the place that I really want to help people, is in that becoming more and more available to your life as it is, which allows you to become more and more available to reality as it is, to the point where it doesn't matter what you do. I really want to get that point across. In the end, when we really begin to wake up, it really doesn't matter what we do, but in my experience, we tend to follow what we love. And we all have our own voice and our own way in the world of how we love. What our work is, how we meet the checker at the store, how we are with our partners and our pets and life and the earth. That will look different for every single person. You have such a unique way of loving the world. Such a beautiful, unique way that is your way. And there's a way that if you could settle into really letting yourself love. My sense is this idea that something needs to change would change into you just following the flow of existence. And if your body's not going there, then enjoy the ride. Because you could just go around and around trying to find the thing that's meaningful, and then we miss it. Does that make sense?
It does. Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah, please, yeah.
I'd love to hear you say something connected to that experience of feeling out of alignment.
Yeah. Do other people ever have that? That's sort of just out of alignment. So, I can just speak from my own experience about it, that oftentimes that is an idea of what my life is supposed to feel like. And that's coming from a place of my mind. Most often, that is the case for me. When I left being a wilderness ranger and a climbing ranger and everything, and a wilderness manager at the end there, I loved that life so much. And I got so clear that it was time to do something else. There was just no question. And it was not what I wanted to do. But there was just this essence that I had to follow completely my spiritual life. I had to completely dive in. My education, my work, everything had to become my spiritual life. And I say that only because there was a rub until there wasn't. And sometimes the rub has to happen for a long, long time. Maybe lifetimes. Maybe lifetimes. But in the meantime, that sense of, if it's not calling you, this thing, then trust your life. Just trust your life. If you're having to push, wondering, what is it? What is it? I can't find it. It's not this, it's not that. Trust that. Just like with your whole being, trust that if it's time to do something else, you will know. But you have to do the practice so that you're ready when the door opens. right? When that door opened for me, everything had to go in that direction. I stepped through. But it doesn't mean that that was the right decision. It's just what I had to do at the time. And I really believe that if you get out of your own way, you'll know what to do next. In the meantime, this is just what you're supposed to be doing. So I want to ask it in a different way. If you could 100% trust your life, would that change the experience you're having? So what's the yes?
Maybe 5 years ago, in the place of the rub, it felt fresh to trust that, to trust something that didn't feel like what I wanted. It felt like surrender, like a relief. There's a familiarity to the same rub that shows up. And so I noticed there's some other part then too,
Mm-hmm.
that steps in, that makes it hard to just really keep
That's your thingy.
surrendering.
Yeah, it's one of your thingies. As long as I've known you, there's been a slight element of that, which is a very human thing. It's just a state of dissatisfaction. And what if you knew that was never going to go away? Just never going to go away. What happens when I say that? Yeah.
I can connect, when we sit, I can really feel into that quality of like the openness and it feels so separate from something else that then is in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're talking about feels so much the part in the body, and that's the part just is like, it feels like a long time to be in the body. I just like want to be in that other part. I want to be in body.
I know. Yeah, I get that. Totally get that. This is your journey. And such an important part of the journey is to come to befriend that process and to learn how to listen at the deepest levels. And I think you know a lot about that, and I think your thingies get in the way of that. But that's what the practice is to learn how to listen at such a deep level. And just listen and listen and listen and die of listening. Because anything anybody else tells you will be about their story and will be about also their journey through it. We can't tell you the next thing to go do or try, or I mean, we could say, yeah, we could spend all night sitting here. Well, have you tried? And did you try? Oh, give up psychotherapy. Go do this. But this is your journey, and there's something heartbreaking about it, right? It's heartbreaking, and it is so universal. And if you drop out of that part that's happening up here, when you're down in the spiritual impulse, that doesn't mean anything. I really want you to hear that. That doesn't mean anything when we're resting in the spiritual impulse. Because all that matters when we're really down there is the deepest of listening. And this following some thread of our life, some thing that we're following that is so much deeper than what we do with our jobs or whatever. Now, it doesn't mean to say that it's not important that we are following that path, but if we follow that, we will end up following what we love. So I would keep being so interested in dropping down to what's here, trusting that that will inform the rest of your relative life. But don't just be treading water up here. You will drown, because you will never be able to do it long enough. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Anything anybody else wants to say about that? What are you waiting for?
Mine is more time, which just made me laugh when I realized that that's what I'm waiting for a lot of the time.
Is it what?
Time.
More time.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's almost like a joke, but it's so real in
Yeah. yeah.
my daily life. And I think I work with it a lot because I remember when my mom was dying, there's that she just wanted more time.
Yeah.
And it was so clear that like this is my more time right now. So I think it's the reminder of my mortality. So if I really go underneath it in my days when I'm like trying to use a to-do list or frustrated I don't get to do all the things I want to do every day, and I have to do things I don't want to do, it's my mortality that I'm sad about.
Yes,
So-
that's right. I want to reflect something back to you
Yeah.
that I often hear you say, that it is that you're doing things that are keeping you from the life you want.
Yeah.
And I really want you to watch that story and see what it's like to really, really enjoy the life you have.
Yeah.
We have to do that first. Because in my experience, we can't do whatever that thing is until we do this.
Yeah.
We make friends with all of it. Right? Oftentimes, that feeling of not having enough time, it's a non-thing.
Mhm.
It's a non-thing,
Mhm.
right? And that's part of your karma.
Mhm.
And yes, there are ways of being able to work with it in the sense of slowing down, not doing as much, really looking at your to-do list and seeing what's essential and what's not. I love getting shit done. I love it. I love it. My Buddha nature is karma, right? My karma nature is get stuff done, organization, be on top of it, manifest, boom, boom, boom. I'm not going to change that. That's my nature. And in the process of making it a non-thing, there's so much freedom to just enjoy it.
Mhm. Like I don't even realize that when I'm doing it, it's easy to talk about now of how silly it is, but in the moment when I'm hooked by it,
Yeah.
I think you talked about just notice like, what am I resisting?
Mhm.
And then can I just feel into my heart?
Yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
has been a helpful
Yeah. Just feel it.
practice with it. It is my karma.
Yeah. 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 Anybody else?
I feel like I've been waiting for the perfect partner.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you might have her, dude. So
Given enough time, I find something better.
yes, you will. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really glad you said that last part because we will always be disappointed by our partners. It's just part of life. And there's something about knowing that she will disappoint you radically and that she still is a perfect partner, possibly.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you're in a little trap right now. Right? You're in a little trap because you're getting what you want.
Oh, yes and no. Yeah. It's not going so well that I think it's perfect.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's more that if we want the boyfriend or the partner or whatever,
Yeah.
and then we get that,
Yeah.
then we're set up for the next thing
Mm.
because we succeeded. There's a little success, just enough to get us to think that the next thing we think will save us, right? So you have to really be careful there because it's just a setup. You're totally not in control. Well, actually, you are in control just enough of these little things to think you're in control of your life. Oops. Yeah, big old fat surprise from experience. Yeah.
I have a question that is both related to this and also the thing you've said now a couple times about you die how you live. And so I've been thinking about that a lot.
Good.
Uh,
That's one thing I would like you to contemplate, everybody to contemplate, not while you're sitting, but I would like you to contemplate that. Yes.
Yeah. So this idea about what do you want for, and I mean, I think our natures are really similar. Like, I really like getting stuff done a lot, and I'm super effective. And in some ways, like, it feels ridiculous. I love my life. Like, I love my living situation. I love, like, I mean, I really am living my life, like, my best life.
Mhm.
And in some ways, I feel like that's always been true for me, because
Mhm.
it's sort of organic to follow some stuff that I love.
Mhm.
But what's happening is some of it's just age. I'm just tired. Like, I'm
Yeah.
just tired a lot. And
Yeah.
like, God, I'm really weepy this week. But so what happens is, like, I get to go to New York and do this really cool conference thing like 2 weeks ago, and then I got home and we're like building a chicken coop, and like all this cool shit is happening, and I am really drawn to doing all of it, and I do it. But I'm also really tired, exhausted, and I have trouble figuring out what's most fulfilling.
Yeah. I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah, so that's.
Welcome to midlife. And this is why, at a certain point, people on the path became forest monks. There was a certain point after the children are raised and your business is kind of, you're successful and you've had a good partnership, that there's a point in one's life where there is a calling. The calling is deeper to become the forest monk, whatever that means to you, meaning that you're starting to hear the call to deeper rest. But that younger part of you is still pushing hard. And there's that time period. I know it so well. There's that deep call before we actually really decide to turn towards it. Trust it.
Yeah.
Trust it. And it's really hard for the ego when we start getting tired. Here's old age, sickness, and death. That's life right there.
I guess when, like, the thing about the living, dying, like, live how you want to die,
Yeah.
like, what does that mean?
So what I mean by that is, I don't mean that there's some certain thing you're supposed to go do with your life, but it's more, how much do you struggle over that dilemma? It's not that you have the dilemma, it's how much do you struggle around it. Can you feel the difference of that?
Totally.
It is the most natural thing in the world that you would be coming up to this, there's a junction that's coming, and you're kind of bashing it. Of course. It's what you do with that. How you relate with that is what your death will be like. If you can accept this time period and accept that there's this process that's beginning to happen, and you keep listening. I'll just use my own example again. There is nothing like having ALS. It's mind-blowing to me, the level of fatigue that I feel. And I keep watching, I keep trusting my journey through this. At first it was like, oh my God, I'm going to do everything I possibly want to do and can still do, because really soon I'm not going to be able to do anything. And that was accurate, it was appropriate, it felt right, even though it made me really, really tired at times. And there's been this slow process where now there's no choice and there's no struggle. I know I now need to rest. And I need to rest a lot. And the things that I did want to do, I don't even want to do them now. I don't even want, there's no struggle. Because I don't want to do them. I don't want to be with people that much. I don't want to socialize that much. I don't want to go be active that much. I don't even really want to go on walks that much. And that's surrendering to that without bemoaning it. This is the next step. It's how do we relate with what's arising?
Yeah.
That's it. How do we relate with what's arising? Emotionally, in our mind, how do we relate with it? The more we struggle, the harder the bardo will be.
Thank you.
I'm so psyched suddenly to read all these books and to go sit out in the meadow and watch the wind blow the pine trees. And are there days that I just totally grief-stricken for periods of it? Of course. But the longing is more to follow this route that I'm on and to listen so carefully that I don't bump up against it. So many people kept saying to me at first, you're doing too much. And I'd be like, I'm doing exactly what I'm being called to do. And it may kill me a month early. Yeah. Good. Okay. I would like to practice and do a little Tandava because I think we need a little of that medicine. So Tandava is an ancient practice, long before Buddhism was Buddhism. It came from the Bon tradition, and from a very shamanic tradition. That was what created the Mahamudra, came out of it. Mahamudra is like the pinnacle of Tibetan Buddhism. Dzogchen and the Mahamudra come from different threads. It was a movement practice that was about the Kundalini rising in the body through very, like, this deep practice of embodiment, letting the energy, the nadis and the energy centers open, and so that energy could move freely. And that showed up through the spine as a serpent, in a more serpent kind of way, so that the movement traditionally was this sense of movement through a serpent, starting with the pelvic floor. Everything starts from the pelvic floor and the low belly. The low belly teachings are really based on an embodiment. It all is around coming from the lower dantian. I could go through Taoism, Sufism, Buddhism, it all starts in the lower dantian. The practice was also in the sense of, it very much about sexual union with space. So this sense of being open and available completely to space, and the relationship that we have to space, to stillness and to quiet, like how you feel space when you move through it. And this sense of making love to space, in the sense that we're open and available. We're not clenching, we're not tightening against, resisting the space, but we're opening to it. If you can imagine the best love making that you can ever imagine, it would be that, because there's a sense of being so safe that all we want to do is open. And we want to open further and further and further to that space. We feel it in our face, so it was traditional that the chest would be open and the heart open and the face would be exposed. So the sense of opening up our vulnerable parts, and that the movement is then coming from the lower dantian and our pelvic floor. It's taught that we sit for a while and then the music begins, and it starts very slowly. All movement comes from an intuitive impulse to move, rather than it's time to move and I'm going to move this way. So we sit until the impulse moves us, and that impulse might be through a moving of our spine at first, but it was originally taught that we begin with the contact with our hands, and that movement is coming from here out through our arms into our hands as we touch the space. It's a caressing of the space. At some point, though, there's an impulse to maybe not, maybe we don't stand at all, but there can be an impulse at some point to stand, but we stand in one place. The reason why we aren't moving around the room is because there's a sense of containment. The ego is more contained when we're staying in one place rather than moving around the room. This is a deep embodiment practice. We stand as if we're on a horse. So our legs are wide with this sort of sense of groundedness, and that it's the willingness to expose our pelvic floor, our root. The movement then is coming from our pelvic floor, coming through and rising up through the central channel, and the hands are moving, all in that sense. We may not always be doing it, but this is the base of all movement, is this sense of this fluidity back and forth of the serpent, of the Kundalini. Then at some point the music might change, or your impulse might change, and you would then come and sit back down. It's a natural process. We would just want to come and sit back down. And that movement would continue until slowly it comes to a stopping point. It actually was traditionally taught that the music didn't slow. It stopped full on, bang, and you would be sitting down. You would sit down immediately and feel the pulse of the earth through you, because your blood is moving, because you've been moving, and you would just feel and sense the pulse of the cosmos. I tend to not be that abrupt with it, but I will just stop the music, and then we just rest in that space, rest in that quiet, rest in that sense of that deep connection, interconnectedness with the cosmos. And with a quote by Martha Postlethwaite: "Do not try to save the whole world or do anything grandiose. Instead, create a clearing in the dense forest of your life and wait there patiently until the song that is your life falls into your own cupped hands and you recognize it and greet it. Only then will you know how to give yourself to this world so worth of rescue. Only then will you know how to give yourself to this world so worth of rescue." So we dedicate this day and this retreat, the flexible, fickle, and ruthless quality of reality. All the insights and all of the sad and all the joy and everything in between. We dedicate all of this to the benefit of all beings who we're so intimately and so inseparably connected to. Sleep well, everyone.